Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 529. I had the white pieces and played d4. And my opponent played f5, the Dutch defense. So there's an interesting way to play against the Dutch. Of course, there's many standard ways to play with g3 or c4, typical responses. But e4 is an interesting way to play. This is known as the Staunton Gambit. Black takes, and then knight c3 is the most common move here, just putting pressure on that pawn and encouraging black to defend it with knight f6. All is very logical. And now bishop g5 is the way I usually play it, and you see it's the top choice in the database. There is you basically get your pawn back in that line. There's an interesting way to turn it into a true gambit with f3, and the engine evaluation, at least at first blush, seems to think that that white has good compensation for the pawn. You can see overall the evaluation is about even, so there's not necessarily the best way for white to play against the Dutch, but it leads to interesting positions, and it gets the Dutch player out of his usual patterns. So anyway, bishop g5 is the way I play it, and there is one trap here that you should be aware of as white, and that black players need to be on the lookout for, or to avoid, which is this natural move d5. Seems like you want to shore up that pawn, but actually this leads to an advantage for white. After you take the knight off and he takes back, you have this queen check, and that's the trick. The queen hits the king and picks up the d pawn, so that's why d5 doesn't adequately defend the extra pawn. In fact, in this position, let's see, g6 to block it, queen takes, you get your pawn back with a good position. And notice that this move is unplayable to shore up the center because of check and pick up the rook. So some other move has to be played here. Black can trade queens, and on other moves, white can often pick up another pawn here. So this leads to a good position for white. So black avoided that in this game. Let's go here. After bishop g5, we can look at the opening book. c6 is an interesting move, preparing d5. And then black would build up a pretty big center. Let's take a look at this, kind of the main line here. c6, and then you can take, and then grab the pawn and get your pawn back this way. And it's an interesting position. It's not a typical Dutch position. Black has this funny-looking pawn structure, but well, it looks like it's okay with d5. I'm not sure about that evaluation. Okay, the engine says black is better here. Maybe because black has got some quick tempos. Let's see, is there a way to improve white's play? Okay, yeah, the chess engine, instead of taking on f6, wants to continue in Gambit style with f3. Okay, so there's two options for you. It looks like getting the pawn back is not the main idea here, but really playing f3 and going for the Gambit, and the quick development is the way to play it. Okay, interesting. So my opponent didn't play that move, though. After bishop g5, he went with e6. And now this knight is pinned, so I can just pick up the pawn here, and I've got a good position out of the opening. Let's see, he goes bishop e7, and then I exchange off the knight. It looks like it's more common to take with the bishop, but both moves leave white with an advantage, so this is still okay. Bishop takes. And then I played, h4 is the move here. I was wondering about that. Just defend the bishop and leave it there. Let's see. I just continued exchanging, but h4 is clearly the best way to play it. Okay, so I took the bishop off. This helps black develop, and we get to a position which is about even. So the game continues from here. Black castles. He's got quick pressure on the open f file, the half-open f file. I have a little more center influence, so white is fine here. I shore up the knight. He goes b6 to get some counter pressure here. c3 shoring up the center. Bishop b7. Castles. So both sides are completing their development. He goes with d6 here. Maybe, yeah, knight c6 is the way for black to continue most simply and best. Just continue and complete your development. He went with d6, maybe with the idea of getting some play against the center. Queen d2, h6. So a lot of pawn moves here. Rook a e1. But it doesn't seem like I can do a great deal to take advantage of this. Finally, he brings his knight out. It just gives white some edge here. Let's see. So I start maneuvering my bishop around. I start looking for a better diagonal to place this bishop on. He goes king to h8, getting off the light squares. Yeah, I was going to target the e-pawn here. Let's see. Did he have a better response? Knight e7 or bishop a6. Yeah, bishop a6 would be an annoying move. It would kind of force my bishop back. So maybe that's why it's rated as 0-0-0, because it's kind of a repetition there. But I think white still keeps an edge here. King h8, queen e3, because I'm not going to repeat. Went to e3. Now he does go bishop a6. Yeah, so this happened in the game. And bishop here to block it. No, I guess this is not so good. What should he have played there? Bishop a6. Okay, it's just that white has an advantage in all of these lines, I guess. So he traded out. And so it's just the knights are the only minor piece remaining. It's just the heavy pieces here. But the knights survive into the endgame, which causes me trouble later. Anyway, I mean, it makes the game interesting when you have a knight on the board. Rook a to e8, getting his rook in, defending the e-pawn. Queen to e4. Right here, yeah, that was my best chance really to get a big advantage here. I had a slight edge, but after rook a to e8, yeah, he should move the knight. What I didn't notice is that his knight is loose here, and I can simultaneously attack the knight and put a little more pressure on the e-pawn. Well, not more pressure, but redirecting that pressure on the e-pawn by playing queen to c4. Gains a tempo on the knight. Let's take a look at this line just to see. So knight back to d8. It's logical. It just forces black into kind of a passive position. Also, this wins a pawn here, doesn't it? I can just grab on c7. Okay, so that would have been the way for me to get a advantage here. I went with queen to e4, also hitting his knight, but I guess without the idea of picking up the c-pawn there. He goes knight to d8. And I go knight to h4. Yeah, anyway, this game continues for quite a long time with just a slight edge for white, but no real breakthrough. He starts doubling his rooks on the f-file. Come in here with the check, thinking this might do something, but it doesn't really seem to lead to a whole lot. h4. I mean, I can cement this knight in here and make it kind of a permanent annoyance, so it's probably worth doing. He goes queen f, cancel that. He went queen f5. Offering the queen trade, and I went ahead and took that and went for the end game. Still keeping an edge, although yeah, the engine likes rook e3, allowing black to trade and keeping these the pawn structure slightly asymmetric. So yeah, when I take with the queen, he does have the option to take with the pawn. Now this leaves also an asymmetric pawn structure. He takes with the rook. Right, he can't take with the pawn because that's pinned. Okay, so we get this asymmetric pawn structure anyway, but he gets a more active rook this way, I guess. So anyway, I went with g3. Could I have played g4 there? Yeah, g4 would have been a more active and better way to play it. g4, with the idea of playing h5 and just cementing that knight in there and kicking this rook around. So g3, not the best move here. Now black is doing fine. Chases my knight back. And then I played, let's see, he plays g5 here, kicking things around. This kind of weakens things around his king, though. That's a bit of a mistake. So it's kind of a back and forth game, but never a clear winning advantage to either side, except for that one point that I missed, queen c4 move. Let's see, so the knight goes over to here to h5. Looks like he let me back into the game a little bit with this rook to h8. I get g4. And now we're back to even. He had a slight edge before that. So, but not a big edge. Let's see. He goes in rook f3. I chase the rook away with king to g2. He goes over here rook to d3. This is a bit risky. Sometimes the rook can get trapped over here, but I guess it's not happening in this case. I go rook d1, and he trades out. And then knight c6, getting his knight back into the game. Rook to d3, knight e7. So he's got some interesting maneuvers going here. It looks like the d5 square might be a good square for the knight. I go rook f3 check. I'm still trying to get some activity going against his king. King goes to e8. And rook to f6, hitting the weak e-pawn, but the king can defend from d7. Still, yeah, I'm building up some pressure here. Let's see, I go knight to g7 here. Rook to f7 is a little better. Yeah, rook to f7, pinning the knight, and the knight can come into, my knight can come into f6 here. Okay, but does knight g7 give the advantage away? Well, it did give away a lot of it. I thought I was piling up and winning this pawn here, but, well, he can just push forward with e5. Let's see, what's even better? Even better is rook h4, counterattacking. Yeah, often the counterattack is the better way to respond. Rook h4 or c5. Anyway, he played e5, so we get some exchanges here. And I thought these weak pawns, this should give me something to play for. And there is an advantage to white once again. So there is something here. Let's see, I went knight f5. I thought it would be simpler to play with the knights off and just with the rooks, which he doesn't trade knights. He keeps the knights on, which also makes my task a bit awkward here. Rook check, then the knight was hitting the rook. King goes to c6. And I need to get my king into the game, but it looks like rook g7 first here. Going after the pawn. He goes knight f4 check, hitting my king. Now the king comes up. Knight e6. Cancel that. Knight back to e6, hitting my rook. Yeah, these knights are very pesky pieces in the endgame, and you always have to be careful to not walk into any forks. So let's see, I went rook g6 here. Rook e7 would have been better. Okay, so rook g6, though, still keeping some edge. He goes king back to d7, defending, and I brought my king into e4. Activating his rook, I played f3, thinking that I was just going to win this pawn, and I was be willing to trade some pawns over here to get a passed pawn over here on the king side where my rook and my knight are to help me queen a pawn. But I overlooked his reply, just rook e2 check. So right here, that's kind of the turning point of the game. I could still keep an even game with, rook king back to e3, defending the pawn. King takes e5 immediately, giving up the f pawn. I didn't want to trade pawns like that. I wanted to use this pawn. And or rook to, let's see, king e3, rook to f6. Also giving up the pawn. So king e3 is a way to hold on to the pawn. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't lead to a whole lot. But f3 just loses. So f3, I walk into this check, and after a few more moves, let's see, he grabbed the pawn over here. He had something even better, right? At this point he could have played knight f4 check, forking my king and my rook. But he plays it at this point. And that's the end of the game there. So a quick finish, but an interesting struggle, and a little bit about the Staunton Gambit. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.